Okay, what's happening is we're going to be given a couple of quadratic equations. The quadratic equations are no longer equal to 0. They're greater than 0, less than 0, greater than equal, less than or equal. Now, what we know from all quadratic equations is usually there's a shape. So for example, this equation here is a quadratic equation. If I was to multiply this out, it would be x squared, it would be minus 12 at the end, and it would be plus 1x in the middle. Okay? As you can see, now it looks a lot like question 7, 8 and 9. Okay? So the trick is, you get given a question like this, then you break it down into its factors and you leave it less than or equal to 0. You know what type of shape is this, a U shape or an N shape? U-shaped, right? It's U-shaped, and the roots will be x equals 3 and x equals
minus
4. That means that minus 4 and 3 is where it cuts the x-axis. It also means that it's a U-shaper, which will go down and up around. Okay? So it's U-shaped. Okay? Now that we know this is U-shaped, guys, okay, what can happen next is basically we're looking to figure out when is this function smaller than or equal to 0. So here's what happens. You're bigger than 0. Now, when we're talking about this 0, we're talking about the y value. When is it bigger than the y value? When is it smaller than the y value of 0? It's bigger, it's bigger, it's bigger, it's bigger, it's bigger, it's bigger. It's now equal to 0. It's smaller than 0, it's smaller than 0. Still smaller than 0, the y value that is. The y value is still smaller than 0, and then it stops being. It then is equal to 0. This means that it works for when minus 4 is less than or equal to x. Oh, sorry, no, that's wrong, excuse me. Oh, no, sorry, it is right. 4 has to be bigger than or equal to x, isn't that correct, alright? So, x has to be bigger than or equal to minus 4. What's the problem with like a number like minus 5? Why is minus 5 not an answer? Because it's bigger than 0. Okay? So x has to be bigger than minus 4. Now what's the problem with like the number 5 on the other side? It's no good either because it's bigger. So it has to be bigger than minus 4, but it has to stop at 3. Now there's another way of writing this. The other way of writing this is to twist this around, spin it, and what you're going to get is minus 4 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 3. That's the answer to this question. Okay, we'll do another one. Another one or two, to be honest.
Wait, so sir, would you not just say to use the values you got for your quadratic?
Yeah, that's exactly what you'll do for the most part, right? I'll show you another one now. Okay. This one here, number 10.
Oh no.
Okay. Still recording here, lads, okay? So, number 10. X squared minus x minus 6 greater than or equal to 0. So what happens is the following. You factorize this into x minus 3 x plus 2 greater than or equal to 0. You pretend it's equal to 0, okay? And what you get is x equals minus 3 x equals plus 3 x equals minus 2. Is this a U-shaped or an N-shaped? It's U-shaped because it's a plus U squared. So what happens is it comes up, it comes at minus 2 and it leaves at 3, and here's your graph here. Okay, so that's roughly your graph there. Now finally, we want it to be bigger than, not smaller than, we want it to be bigger than. Okay, so let's start off. Is it bigger than inside?
Yeah.
No, remember, it has to be bigger than 0. Bigger than 0 means above the x-axis. Is it above the x-axis in between these two values? No. That means, is it above x out here?
Yes, it is.
It's above the x-axis out this way. Yeah. So there's two answers for this. It's x is smaller than or equal to minus 2, or x is bigger than or equal to 3. That's your two answers. Okay? Yes, right? Next one is number 15, okay? Number 15 says 2x squared is less than or equal to 3x. What I do with this question is I'd say 2x squared is minus 3x is less than or equal to 0. What I do next is, Hugo, I factorise out the x, and what am I left with? What am I left with?
2x.
2x minus 3 less than or equal to 0. Now, this means x is equal to 0, or 2x is equal to 3, x is equal to 3 over 2. This means there's two values, 0 and 3 over 2. Once again, is it a U-shaped graph? It is a U-shaped graph. Okay, so it goes up and around. Okay, I don't know how far it goes down, to be honest. Okay, now we want the value to be bigger than or smaller than 0. Smaller than 0. Where is it smaller than 0? In between 0 and in between 0 and 3 over 2. So it's going to be 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 3 over 2. That is the values between 0 and 3 over 2. Okay, this one here is different from the other equations for the following reason. It's an n-shaped graph. The reason why I know it's an n-shaped graph, because of the minus x squared. So what we're going to do is the following. We're going to solve this like we would normally. Okay, so when we solve it, what's going to happen is we're going to multiply both sides by minus 1. Is that right? Both sides by minus 1. And when you multiply both sides of an inequality by minus 1, what happens? Simon? You change the sign. Okay? Now what we do is we figure out what is the actual, we just solve actually, sorry, more so. We're not actually solving it. We're not actually changing the sign, lads. We're just actually solving it. Okay. To solve it, we put it equal to 0. So the missing step would be putting it equal to 0. Okay. And then we multiply both sides by minus 1. When we get minus 1, then we know that it's going to be x minus 1, x minus 4 equals 0, x equals 1, x equals 4. Now when this happens, what's going to happen is we have a U-shaped, we had an N-shaped graph. It's going to be starting off at 1 and 4. And what it's going to be N-shaped, okay? So we go all the way up, curve around, and go back down again. It wants to know the numbers for where it's bigger than or equal to 0. So is it smaller or bigger right now than 0? Smaller, smaller, smaller. Stop. Starts at 1. It's in between 1 and 4. So that's your answer. Okay? Yeah.
The sign's confusing.